In today's video, we're taking a look at some Montreal Canadiens rumor mill talk, which could result in them having a very different looking blue line come next season. We're also have a few rumors concerning a couple of their forwards as well. Plus, we want to take a look at the possibility that the NHL just might be having the draft early in June after all. We'll discuss all the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, I mainly want to focus on some Habs rumors, but first, before we get into that, I want to take a look at the latest updates regarding the NHL and the possibility of the NHL draft being held early in June. Now, we've talked about this a few different times. Once it was looking pretty likely that, something the NHL was really pushing for. Then it seemed like there was a lot of resistance by many teams and, it might be off the table. But now it looks as though it's back on the table and pretty much really very much alive here. I mean, the NHL's really pushing this. I think they saw the draft that the NFL did, and they really want to capitalize on doing a lottery and having this draft done here sooner than later. So they're really pushing for this. And they want to jump on the sports buzz here created by the NFL, and it makes a lot of sense. And it certainly looks like they could be doing this in a different format, as we had also kind of touched on before. So this topic is going to be covered again by the NHL on a conference call in the next day or two. They could end up putting it to a vote. I'm not sure how this is going to go exactly, but there is some talk that we could get an announcement this week because NHL sources indicate they would need about a month to plan and prepare to have the event, and the rumored dates that we're looking at were around June 5th or 6th, which very well could lead them to making an announcement here sometime in the next couple of days. However, the format could be different. As I mentioned, Pierre LeBrun of The Athletic and TSN had reported through Twitter on the weekend that they're looking basically at an older format where only the first overall pick would be in the lottery. The other picks, second and third, that have normally been in the lottery in recent years would not be. This would kind of be a way of preventing teams from moving up too high in the lottery as well, and maybe getting into the expanded playoffs that we could see in the summer, win the Stanley Cup, and kind of prevent a lot of other things from taking place that they would not want to see. So essentially with that format, there would be one spot on the line in the lottery, which would be first place, and they would also have a rule that you could only move up a maximum of 4 spots. So the only teams eligible to win the lottery obviously would be the bottom 5 teams. And in that situation, the Red Wings, who were in the bottom of the standings, would be guaranteed either first or second, and the Ottawa Senators, who are going to have 2 picks due to the pick from the Sharks that they acquired in the Carlson trade, would be guaranteed at worst third and fourth, and of course both of them would have a shot at first as well. So I know I had seen comments from Steve Yzerman, the Red Wings GM, indicating that he was very much against the June draft, but really obviously the draft lottery could be very unkind to the Red Wings, and its current format dropped them down as low as 4th. If I'm Steve Yzerman and I'm guaranteed a 50% chance at first or second in the draft, I think I probably take that all day long. The Red Wings were clearly a very bad team this year and need a top pick, and this would really increase the likelihood you're leaving the draft with either Lafreniere or Byfield. I think that's something that Detroit needs to vote on, and there is some talk that the Canucks are another team warming up to the idea and could vote in favor of this as well, where they do have a first-round pick that was traded on a conditional basis to the Tampa Bay Lightning in the JT Miller deal. Of course, that pick was later flipped over to New Jersey in another trade for Blake Coleman. And right now, that pick would be handed over, and at least they would know where that pick would be. They wouldn't be moving up too high in the draft, since they could move up a maximum of 4 spots if they were to win the lottery. And at least going into next year, with a lot of uncertainty on how it's going to go, they could just get the pick out of the way and not have to worry about it not being protected next year. Because if next year things go really well for them, or it goes really bad, regardless, they don't have to worry about it. They would own their pick and would have a little bit more control. So I guess we'll see what happens, but hopefully we'll get some news on the draft and the potential return of players to their NHL cities and a return to action as soon as the next few days, or at least some updates on how things are going. Now, as I mentioned as well, I want to focus on some Montreal Canadiens rumors that we could see in the offseason, and which could lead to them, if any of this comes true here, of really having a very much revamped blue line and very different looking blue line come next season. Now, of course, as we know, one of their top prospects, Alexei Romanov, is expected to sign a contract pretty much any time. I know Habs fans are anxious to see that happen, but as I mentioned before, it could be delayed because they're waiting for further clarification on what's going to happen this season. If the season were to resume and Montreal available to be playing games, there is a possibility he could sign and play right away, or at least it seems that way. So I think that they're kind of waiting on clarification on that before anything happens. But there has been some talk as much as a couple of months ago that Romanov very well could be bringing a friend with him over to Montreal, one of his Russian teammates on CSKA Moscow that he's had for the past couple of years, who has previous NHL experience and is also a free agent as well, and that's Alexei Marchenko, who previously was drafted by the Red Wings back about 9 years ago, played in the Red Wings organization for a number of years between the AHL and NHL, had a brief stint with the Maple Leafs, and then has been back playing in the KHL since 2017, and is very interested in making an NHL return. Now, Igor Aronko, who really covers a lot of the KHL and Russian rumor mill and contracts, first reported this back in February, and then it was confirmed on Twitter by Andrew Zadarnarski not long ago that Marchenko would not be re-signing with his KHL club and that he would be becoming a free agent. So that adds even more intrigue to the mix here. Montreal's been linked to this player for some time. There's a lot of potential benefits here of him coming over and going to the Habs organization if they're able to sign him. For one, he's got great size. He's 6'3" with 210 pounds. He's a right shot, so he could help solidify that right side. I don't think he'd be commanding too much money on a shorter term contract, give him maybe a 1 or 2 year deal to start things off. Marchenko, like I said, he's already kind of used to NHL systems. He's already got some English down where he played in North America for quite a while, so it'll be an easier transition and could be a big help to the younger Romanov to have a fellow countryman who could really kind of mentor him, not only from an NHL systems perspective, but living in North America, learning more English and all of that whole aspect of the major cultural change that comes from players coming from other parts of the world could go over to be a really big thing. Now, in Marchenko's case, his offensive game has really improved as well the last number of years, so he's certainly putting up more points in the KHL more recently than he did when he played in North America before. He's 28 years old now, like I said, so he's a much more mature player and very well could be a pretty low-risk right-shot defenseman with big size here that could add more help to the Montreal blue line. Of course, if you look at their blue line right now on the right side, they get Shea Weber and Jeff Petrie. Obviously, if you add a guy like him there as a third pair guy, pretty low risk, and in my opinion, certainly an intriguing possibility. Of course, Romanov himself is a left shot defenseman. You've also got Ben Sherratt, Victor Mete over there. There's certainly, a lot of speculation about the future of Noah Juulsen. He's been hampered by a lot of injuries the last few years. Not quite clear if he's going to ever really come to realize his full potential as well. So we'll see. But certainly would be a huge help, I think, for Romanov, for Marchenko to come with them. And there's even further talk now that he could be coming, now that we know for sure that he is going to be a free agent and not staying in the KHL. So if you're a Habs fan, let me know what you think of the possibility of him coming over with Romanov. Now, there's another pretty big-time free agent defenseman out of Europe. His name is Mika Lehtinen. He's a left-shot defenseman, one of the better offensive defensemen in European hockey. Was ranked pretty high in KHL scoring last year, and for a defenseman, that was quite an accomplishment. I believe he was 6th in scoring, and really for a lower-scoring league as well, he's put up some pretty fine numbers. He's 26 years old. Again, another guy who's mature. He's older, has really crafted his game over playing in Europe the last number of years and is ready to make that jump to North America. Him and his team, York Reed, had come to a mutual contract termination not long ago, which made him a free agent, and they have confirmed that he will be signing with an NHL team. Now, when that news first broke, the New Jersey Devils were the main team that he was linked to, but now we have other reports from other NHL insiders indicating that the Habs are in on this as well, and the Los Angeles Kings are another team looking hard here at Lehtinen, and very well could prove to be another very interesting option. Now, of course, as I mentioned, having guys like Romanov and Marchenko come over certainly help revamp that blue line, but you throw a guy like Lehtinen in there as well, and it could be a completely different look. Now, of course, keep in mind, we had talked not long ago about the possibility about a Brett Kulak trade in Montreal. It suggested, based on other rumors that we were seeing, that he very well could be available, and with the addition of Romanov, that even that alone could force him out of town. But if you add some other interesting free agent options like these, then I think a Brett Kulak trade is all but certain. It could even force another move as well, because obviously in that left side, like I said, you already have Ben Sherratt, you've already got Victor Mete, you get youngsters like Cale Fleury as well looking for more ice time. So clearly, it's going to create a bit of a logjam on the blue line, but it could certainly be a big, nice problem to have, having all these defensemen at your disposal who could really revamp that blue line If Mika Lehtinen were to come over and kind of resume his play like he was over in Europe in the KHL playing for Jokerit, that would be a tremendous addition for Montreal. They could very easily have a top four, Weber and Petrie, maybe Romanov, and Lehtonen would get Ben Sherrod in there, Marchenko. Like I said, it'd be a logjam. They'd have to move a few of these guys out to really make room for everybody, but it creates some healthy competition, and they could decide later on who comes and who goes. They get lots of cap space, so from a salary cap perspective, wouldn't be an issue, and they could really have a really revamped, greatly improved blue line by making some of these European additions of these guys that are on the free agent market. So let me know what your thoughts are on those possibilities for Montreal adding some of these guys. Now, as I mentioned, and within the forward group, there's also some chatter that there's a pretty good certainty that Ilya Kovalchuk returns, and that maybe Charles Hudon leaves town. Now, of course, he's an RFA. Hasn't really gotten a great opportunity in Montreal. When he hasn't really worked out for the best. Hudon's a player, never really fully realized the potential that many thought he had when he was drafted, and there is some talk that the RFA, that he could end up going over to the KHL or maybe one of the other European leagues. I think the Swiss League was the other one that was mentioned, that he could look for more opportunities over there, maybe make a return to the NHL or attempt to someday. Hard to say, but with Kovalchuk coming back as well, it kind of ties into some of these other Russians coming over. They could have a pretty good Russian contingent there to help Romanov develop and really, like I said, acclimatize him to being in North America, learning more English, learning the NHL systems, being a pro hockey player. It certainly would not be a bad thing as well, like I said, to have him surrounded by some of his countrymen that have all that experience, especially as we know Kovalchuk fit in nicely when he came over midway through last year. If he could pick up where he left off and then have Marchenko there for him as well, could be a great support system and just really promote success that much more and give the Montreal Canadiens a whole different look and a completely revamped blue line. So let me know your thoughts on these Habs rumors and what you hope to see Marc Bergevin and company do in the coming days and weeks as these contracts get finalized and we know for sure where some of these players are going to end up. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.